Now, one thing is if you're using Corona SSK for Corona, and I pre-calculate the left, right, top, bottom, and I can't remember if it's as released. I'll check before I do the next one, but I believe I have the code dynamically recalculate the left, right, top, bottom on the assumption that you're going to be running this on the desktop and then rescaling this. So as you rescale, SSK figures that out for you, so you can rely on that to always have the correct boundaries of your screen.
Now you could have, if you wanted to, you could have made that a bigger image in the background, right? Could you?
Yeah, I could have. I did not bother to. I simply could have said use the full width of the screen and stretch out. All this is a rectangle. In fact, you know what I'll probably end up doing is exactly that. I will increase this so it looks better on desktop. This is actually the first time in a week that I've run this on the desktop. So I just wanted to kind of show off the desktop is available and show you something about an upcoming release in SSK before we start.
Sweet.
So SSK, I released it last week. I ran into some problems. There's this button here for watching videos, and on Windows, everybody else it works fine, the devices and on OS X, but on Windows there was a bug where it was the links, it was making them all lowercase, which 99% of the time you don't care what the case of a URL is, but when you're using URL shorteners or YouTube links, it has to be exactly the case that you got out of that you grabbed. So what was happening is the videos you'd click on, and then YouTube would come up and say, I don't know what video you're talking about, and I didn't clue in until I'm like, oh look, all the link widget, you know, the URL, the weird URL is lowercase. That doesn't look right. So that's been fixed and released, and so 2638, it's fine. The link should work. But this week, I'm working hard for the people who wrote me to send them their first invite for the iOS version. And in that version, you will see my initial demos. What I'm doing is I'm working on a series of, so like we do on the show where I try to break down the game mechanic, I'm doing a long series of game mechanics. One-touch taps, one-touch tap and hold, two-touch, swipes, all these different game mechanics. And what I'm doing is I'm taking a game that you can find usually for free and play, and I'm taking one mechanic out of that game and showing how to make it in like 200 or 300 lines of code using SSK. So for example, bird climb, which is just simply a one-tap game where you're sort of like don't touch the spikes, but it goes up and up and up and up. And tapping the screen just gives your guy a little boost. This is about 200 lines of code in SSK. Let's see, two cars. So when you change lanes, it's a two-tap game, and you don't want to hit the circles, and you do want to hit the squares. About 250 lines of code. Bouncing ball. It's the one where the spikes are coming across the bottom, and you're supposed to tap to get your time right. You probably can't see it real well in the thing here, but what you do is you tap, and it speeds up the drop, so you can avoid. You can bounce over, so you get your bounce to go now, and then you can just miss it. That probably doesn't look worth. Let's see. Don't touch the spikes. We know this one. This one's about between 250 and 300 lines of code. They all come out to be about all these one-touch games. 300. That's about the average or lower.
Would you think that's just because just the core mechanic itself it changes?
Yeah, you know, once
everything
you
else is
solve
the
the core
same.
mechanic, and for me, SSK, there's the free version, and then there's another version which I'm working on trying to figure out whether to monetize it or how to monetize it. It comes with an extensive additional library of modules that makes things like one-touch inputs and one line of code, so that you can just throw them in there, and then they produce events that you can listen for on your game instead of worrying about doing all the touch handling yourself and knowing how to turn it off and when to turn it off and whatnot. One-liners. One-liner for a joystick, one-liner for a two-touch, one-liner for a one-touch and a joystick on one side. You've seen some games where they put like two buttons in the corner where you tap on one side, tap on the other. That's a one-liner. And a lot of these are compatible with each other, so you can have like that one I just talked about. You can run it twice and say make a 2-button over here and add another 2-button over here, which gives you 4 buttons in the corners of your screen for some control scheme that you might want. So and
Interesting.
yeah, and I do little things like touch coalescing, which is something we haven't talked about on the show, but the problem that Corona has, it's not a problem in Corona, it's a problem in the usage by people, is that Corona accepts inputs as fast as the device can respond to them. And so what can occur is you can touch the screen and move your finger quickly and process a bunch of move events all in one frame, which is kind of stupid in the sense that it's good that Corona does it because that way it's highly accurate. But let's say you're doing some heavy-duty calculations and you move, calculate, but it's all occurring in one frame. So the end result is the last one you did, and you really didn't need to do all the preceding ones. So I have a technique which I call touch coalescing, which the touch inputs use to reduce the frequency of the events, and so it keeps your performance good when you're using these events to trigger game calculations. So it's just little things like that to help make your code quicker and run better.
And that's what I like about you, Ed. I like that you're always about the under the hood.
I'm trying, I'm trying, and it's good to be on the show because I get to talk to other folks, and they all push me to think, I got to be a little better, or I could do that a different way. So, all right. So enough of that. We talked about Windows.
So that's desktop. That's desktop.
Desktop.
Is that you're running that on Windows?
Yeah. So I banged for the buck here. I wanted to show the desktop version so folks would know who are on listening to the Hangout would know it's out there.
You haven't done any OS X stuff yet?
I haven't, and because it's you can't see me pointing, but my laptop, which is my OS X machine, sits off to the left side, and so it's a hassle for me to use it. So
have to
there's
reach
a few
over.
steps with Xcode there, and I just don't want to deal with it. So when I get the time, I will, and I'm in the beta. It's just I'm not doing a good job of participating.
No, you're clearly on the Windows side. That's cool.
Yeah, so I deal with the thing that's easiest for me, which is the Windows side. I got 2 big monitors, I got a real keyboard and a mouse. That's the way to go.
Gotcha. So
let's get rid of this. Okay, so today...
Yeah.
Tell
us what we're going to talk about.
So what we're going to talk about is game mechanics for the game called Ichi, and I should have brought up the darn screenshot.
Is that how you pronounce it, Ichi?
Yeah, it means one in Japanese.
Ichi, okay.
I'm gonna bring it up real quick here. Here it is.
You're the world traveler, so I'm going to assume that that's correct.
Well, I used to speak Japanese. I can't really say that anymore, but okay, that's not what I wanted to do. Here we go. So here's this game. You can get it. Was it free? I think it's a pay game. Nope. It's 99 cents. You can get it on Google Play, and it's probably 99 cents on iTunes. Also, you can play it on your desktop if you have Steam. So it's I think it's available for Windows on Steam. And this was an immensely successful game because, and this is a side note really, but it's why people get so interested in it, I think, is the mechanic is really incredibly simple. It's just this little dot, and it goes around, and it bounces off of what I call bumpers. So this is a bumper, this is a bumper, this is a bumper, and this blue one here can't move, doesn't rotate. The red one, you tap the screen or you click your mouse, it rotates. It's a one-touch game, and the bumpers just turn once for every click. This one up here, you hit it once, it breaks, and then it's gone. So you got all these different kinds of things that you can hit. Like this thing I think is a teleporter. If you hit this, it comes out here. These are things that you need to pick up. And this here, I can't remember if this what goes on with that. I think this is also a teleporter.